Hello and welcome to the book snack tag. I was tagged by Spines and Spoilers, who I will link down below. You should definitely go check her out. She's lovely. And the original was created by the Midnight Reader. Thank you, Splain. Who I will also link down below. There are 8 questions that all kind of revolve around snacks and books, so I'm just gonna get right into it. The first question is sweet, the chocolate chip cookie of books. Pick a book that is warm-hearted, uplifting, and makes you less cynical about the world. For this, I had to go with Ribbons by Lawrence Yep. This is a middle grade book about a girl who likes doing ballet, but when her parents have to bring her grandmother over from China, it's very expensive, so they can no longer afford her ballet lessons. She winds up having a lot of conflict with her grandmother. They don't really get along, so it's just overall a lovely book about like culture and passion, and like it's one of my favorite middle grade books. This makes me cry every time I read it. It's so lovely, and it's just like happy. Like it has that hopefulness that middle grade often has, so would highly recommend. Question 2, salty, inherently craveable. Pick a book or series that you couldn't stop reading or reaching for. I picked the Will Trent series by Karin. This is the first book, Triptych, which kind of just like sucked me in immediately. This book was wonderful. So gross, so creepy, so much sketch garbage going on in this nonsense. It was just kind of fantastic. This doesn't exactly center around Will Trent. It was a weird introduction to him as like the main character of a series, because he only narrates like a third of this book, but it was just like so good. Like it was one of the best thrillers that I'd read in a long time, and it really just like instantly made me love Karin. Question 3, cheesy. Like Cheeto dust, you can't escape the cheese. Pick a book that you love because of or in spite of its cheesiness. I don't read a lot of cheesy, to be perfectly honest. Cheesy is not usually my go-to, so this one's a little bit of a stretch maybe, but I have P.S. I Love You by Cecelia, Ahern. It's more like sad than cheesy. It's about a woman whose husband dies and he leaves her letters for like every month or something after his death, of things for her to do and ways to like help her get back into the world and not just like grieve forever. I feel like a little cheesy. It is very sweet. It's very, very sad, like bittersweet maybe. But it's wonderful. Like it makes me so happy reading it, and like I cry, and it's one of those that like I don't think it's the best book ever because it is very cliche, but like it just works, you know, it hits me in a type of way that I just really appreciate. Question 4, deep fried. You bit too soon into the hot batter and got burned. Pick a book that hurt to read. This is a very recent read for me, Know My Name by Chanel Miller. This is a memoir of a woman who was raped, and she talks a lot about like her experience of the rape, but also mostly of the aftermath of like what it was like dealing with the police, going to court, dealing with the press. And this book is kind of her power statement of reclaiming her identity, because for a long time she was known as Emily Doe, and it's a really wonderful book. She's such an amazing writer, and it just like her writing made everything so much more powerful and emotional, and I just sobbed my way through this, but it was so worthwhile if you can handle a book like this. Question 5, ice cold. Sometimes the snack you want only comes from the deep freezer. Pick a book that transports you to a gold place. I went with a little middle grade for this. One of my childhood favorites, Snow Treasure by McSwigan. This is a World War II historical fiction set in Norway. Essentially a group of kids wind up concealing gold on their sleds in order to like get it safely out of the Nazis' way, because the Nazis come to invade a village, so they wind up just like sledding past the Nazis with a bunch of gold. And I think it was somewhat inspired by true events, but I'm not 100% sure. But I love this as a kid. Like this is one of those that I would just reread like every 6 months or so because I really enjoyed it and it was so quick and fast. But if you haven't read it and you like middle grade, I would highly recommend. Question 6, sour. Some things are too sour to keep a straight face. Pick a book that made you make faces while you were reading. Ford by Abby Wambach. This is her memoir. She retired, but she was an American soccer player. She was the star of the national team for quite a while, and I loved her. I loved watching her play. She was very much like my generation when I was a child growing up, that like she was the one that I got to watch like her whole career. I wasn't really expecting to love this book. I expected it to be like very generic, like sports memoir. Like, sure, it's cool because I like her, but like doesn't really contribute much. But it was actually really like emotional and very raw, and like it felt honest. Like, I mean, clearly I don't know what's going through her head, so like maybe this whole book was lies, but it felt very genuine and honest, which I appreciated. But she talked a lot in this about like how much she hated soccer for like most of her life and how badly she wanted to quit. Like, and I mean like most of her life. And like she would just get absolutely wasted and eat garbage and show up to practice like hungover and just have to run through that. And I was like constantly making horrified faces because I truly cannot imagine, but like I understand where she was coming from, and like I was just like, how can you hate soccer? Like, how? It hurt my soul a little bit, but it was a really wonderful book, actually. Question 7, the healthy snack. You picked this up because it was good for you. Pick a book that you read to improve yourself in some way. So for this, I chose Persian Girls by Rachlin. This is a memoir of a woman from Iran who wound up moving to America and becoming a writer, obviously. This is a lot about her, just her life growing up, some about her sister who wound up staying in Iran and having like kind of a very negative life there. But it's a wonderful book. I've been trying to read more nonfiction that's like about countries outside of America, you know, that I'm unfamiliar with, just to try to like broaden my knowledge, and this was one of those books, and it was really, really wonderful. Prompt 8, juicy. Like an orange or a watermelon, some snacks have plenty of pieces to share. Pick a book that is profoundly shareable, a book you want others to read. So for this, I obviously had to go with my favorite series of all time, the President's Daughter series by Emerson White, because every tag video is just an excuse for me to hype these books because they're wonderful. This series, I'll hold up the first one, even though it's not my favorite. This series is about a girl who is the daughter of the first female president of the United States. Fictional, obviously, but Meg Powers is like 16 when her mother is running for president, and the first book kind of just focuses on Meg, how she feels about this, you know, because like the press attention is amping up and like it's going to change her life. She's gonna have to move out of, I think Massachusetts was where she lived, and go to the White House. And the first book is very slow, like it covers like the election and such and things like that. So it starts off very slow and just like, oh, this is just a nice, lovely story about like a girl whose mother is running for president. Nothing much really happens. And then the series kind of goes on, and her mother undergoes an assassination attempt, and then Meg gets kidnapped by terrorists. And it sounds like a lot, but it's actually not, because it's all handled in a very like serious, realistic way. Like the final book, Long May She Reign, is the final book. It's thick. But this book takes place after all of those events, and like literally this entire book is one semester of hers, her first semester away at college, just dealing with the PTSD and her physical disability and just like all the trauma that she's been through, and her classes and the press attention, and it's just like very like realistically done and so well written and fantastic. So long story short, I recommend these books. These are wonderful. They're my favorites. And then question 9 is the snack pack. Everyone wins when you swap and share your snacks. Tag some friends to do the tag. So I'm just going to tag Emily from Novel Novels and Reading with Tatiana, because I'm fairly certain neither of them have done this. I think this will be the first time I've tagged Emily in something that she hasn't already done. So I will link both their channels down below. Go check them out. They're wonderful people. And let me know down below what book would be like your one book to recommend if you were doing this tag. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all again soon.